fastest way to travel in Hytale? This is a question I've been wondering for the past few weeks as I've been playing the game, and in this video we're going to be answering this question by splitting it up into an experiment with two different sections. One section is going to be focusing with no stamina being lost, and the second section is going to be applied to the real world with stamina being lost, so you kind of get an idea of what it's actually going to be like. Both sections are going to give us a good estimate on what the actual fastest way to travel in Hytale is, and stick around to the end as I showcase the patch Dagger Dash from the early first days of the game. Without further ado, let's get started. So starting off with section 1, we're going to be testing off all of these methods of travel on the screen right here, and without any stamina being lost. For this test, we're only going to be doing about 150 blocks, which I'll be converting into 100 blocks for you guys to kind of get a better idea. I know, it's pretty off. But anyways, first up, we have walking. I think we all kind of expected that walking was going to be the slowest, so definitely from here it's going to get faster, so we're going to be moving on to sprinting. That took a lot of time off, so we're actually going to be moving on to the daggers for a reference, and I will be using them in a way that many of you are very familiar with, which is where you walk and use your ability at the same time. Now that we've covered the daggers, we can actually move on to one of the methods I actually don't know how well it will do, which is the sword. Next up is going to be the battle axe, which I think has the weirdest animation. When you use it, you just like lunge forward and you like scream, which is kind of weird, but you actually go like really far with it, and I think that this is actually going to be a really interesting method. Since we've basically covered everything, we're now going to be moving on to the horse, which I think all of you were probably expecting, some of you maybe not, but it's actually extremely fast. Now that we've covered everything in section 1, here's how they rank up. So what I found was pretty interesting. Obviously, walking was expected to be a bit slower. It came at 27 seconds over 150 blocks. Sprinting, on the other hand, was only 6 seconds faster at 21 seconds. Daggers came in at 15.15 seconds, and sword and axe kind of tied for 18 seconds. But the horse came in at 12 seconds, which was kind of cool. However, if we go to 100 blocks, it obviously looks like the horse was about 10 seconds faster than walking when you convert it into 100 blocks. Daggers, on the other hand, over a short distance would actually only be 2 seconds slower than the horse at 100 blocks, but it's only about 3 seconds slower at 150 blocks, and this is without any endurance being lost, which is pretty cool. So when you look at the meters per second, it actually is quite funny. Horse came in about 12 meters per second, or blocks per second, however you want to put it. Daggers almost hit 10, it hit about 9.9. Sprinting came at 5.55, and it looks like sword and axe tied for meters per second, and then sprinting came at 7 meters per second. So as we can see, horse is probably going to be faster, but honestly, you could probably keep up with the horse or even beat it, in my opinion. Obviously, if you're going over walls and all that, it's more likely that you'll probably be better with the daggers. So just from this kind of experiment from right here for number 1, pretty interesting. Now we're going to move on to section 2, and we're going to try to check out everything and see how they stack up again, and then we'll come back and we'll compare everything again. In section 2 of this experiment, I'm going to be running this again in the real world with obviously stamina being lost. So we're going to go to adventure mode, and we're actually going to be doing 100 blocks this time, which I'm also going to convert to 150 blocks for reference. And then we're going to see how they all match up and what the times kind of expect. So we're going to be skipping walking for the first one because literally nothing changes. So we're going to move on to sprinting. So no surprise there, it shows that sprinting was actually pretty close, and we're going to move on to the daggers and kind of see how they hold up, but overall it actually wasn't that bad. After converting it, it definitely is a little weird, but it's not that off, which we will dive into later, especially since this is going to be like obviously endurance being lost. But now I want to move on to sword. So the sword actually was probably the most atrocious run I've ever seen. And here's the numbers, by the way. I don't know what happened, but we're going to get into that later at the end of the video. And I'm hoping Axe does better, but we'll see. So the axe was actually not that bad. What I'm guessing happened here is that it's making up for the lost amount of time by just throwing you in the air. So I don't know what sword was doing, but we're going to finish this off with horse, and then we're going to talk about what we found. So the horse is actually a little interesting because it seems that we got faster, which I will talk about in a second because there could be a few reasons for that, but 7 seconds is pretty good for 100 blocks. After compiling everything and analyzing it all, here's what I found and all the things that kind of stood out to me because, trust me, there's a lot. The short answer is that the horse is still the fastest way to travel in the game, whether you lose endurance or not. During the experiment, I found that when the horse traveled for 150 blocks with endurance not being lost, it actually traveled about 12 seconds. About 12 seconds, which is about 12.44 meters per second. And when we converted that to like endurance being lost, it actually came in about 7 seconds for the 100 blocks, and when I converted it to 250 blocks, it was about 10.72, so roughly about 1 to 2 seconds per margin of error, but that also could just be because of me when I'm timing it. But the most interesting thing about this whole thing is that obviously the daggers came in about a second, so during our endurance run they only came about 3 seconds behind the horse, which was at 150 blocks, so the daggers came in at 15.15 seconds, which is about close to 10 meters per second, and in the 100 block conversion it would be about 10 seconds. So basically in shorter distances the dagger will keep up with a horse if your endurance is not being lost, but if we actually go back and look at the conversion and compare the two when endurance is lost with the dagger, so you'll see that it's about 7 seconds slower than the horse in the 100 block race. And yeah, when we extended it to 50 blocks, it just kind of went off the rails, which is to be expected, just because of the fact that obviously the longer you go on, you're not going to be able to you recover that quickly. So it's kind of to be expected. We ended up getting 21 seconds for the 150 block race with the daggers, about 11 seconds behind the horse time. So roughly the daggers are about half the speed of the horse, which means if we were to go 500 blocks, you'd probably see that get a lot wider, which could be an issue. But now moving on to the more interesting part, the sword is actually more sustainable than the daggers. So over the course of 100 blocks, the sword actually, with its stamina being drained, retained its speed at 7.6 meters per second, and the axe actually ended up dipping to 6.63 meters per second, which that means the sword is actually better at retaining its speed when the stamina is being lost. So I think that it's probably because when you're using that special ability, you're dashing forward, and when you're using the axe's special ability, you're lunging in the air. And the lunging in the air could cause a lot of airtime being lost for like on the ground. This also could be a margin of error. Obviously, if I redo it, I'd probably get a different result. But I think just from this, we can kind of infer that. From this, also, we see that the sword is actually faster than the dagger by at least a second, and about 2 seconds at 150 blocks. So I think that the main thing I'm going to go with is it's probably airtime, especially with the daggers. If you're going up, you know, it's going to cause some issues. Unless you were facing down with the daggers, maybe that could help you speed up. I could test that as well. I would say over a longer period of time, I would think the daggers would probably still be better depending on the terrain. The sword, I mean, if you're on a cliff, you know, whee! So I think that, yeah, I think that's probably it. What we can safely say is that if you're new to the game and you want to travel quickly, I would pick the daggers until you find a horse. I would use a horse for longer travels on a straighter path. If you're going like through terrain, I would probably use the daggers. I think that if you're going to go uphill and all that, you're most likely going to be better off with the daggers because it's better at climbing and getting around the terrain. But if you're actually without daggers, I would pick a sword. It's pretty good. Before we actually end the video, I wanted to actually showcase to you guys the one little cool thing that was the dagger dash. In the first few days of Hytale's release, there's a bug where if you switch to your weapon, it would automatically use your special ability without even having to charge. So basically, if you have the daggers, and I was sprinting, and I moved to my dagger slot, it would immediately start using my supercharged weapon, which led to the dagger dash, which you're about to see now. Thank you guys for watching. I just wanted to kind of make this video, and I thought it was really fun to kind of do something different instead of the normal kind of funny videos that I normally do, or just having fun, and there's no real, I guess, story to it. So if you like this kind of video, just let me know. I also actually wanted to introduce you guys to something that I thought was really cool. Obviously, this is a donation site. It's called Muslimi. I don't know. I really thought it was really cool. They have a whole bunch of different areas where you can donate to different people and in need. So if you guys are looking forward to that or want an area to donate, I would suggest this place. If you guys actually have any more areas to donate and charities that you guys think should be talked about, I would love to hear them out, and I will love to check them out and showcase them in my videos. But I'll leave a link to Muslimi in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Here's some videos that you guys can go check out. Here's the GS Trading Go channel that you can also check out for more funny videos, and our Hytale Let's Play is coming out if I edit it. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe.